series. Today we're going to be looking at our cell controller functions. So we're actually going to be using our in-house FMS to show you how to go through this. So we're going to be looking at a few things today when we talk about our cell controller, that being setting up jobs. We'll look at our reporting functions, we'll touch on some alarms, and then finally look at securing the cell controller. So for those of you who have not been with us before, my name is Tim Campbell. I've been working here at Toyota since May in the marketing department and serve as the administrator and presenter for the webinar series. Also joining me today is Keith Jackson, who's going to serve as our technical expert. He's been working here at Toyota for 15 years and serves as an applications engineer. All right, so our key goal for today's episode is to go into further detail on the topic of cell controller functions. We want to get our users to the point where the operator will focus on keeping the spindle in the cut. Managers and administrators are then able to access the cell controller remotely to schedule jobs and keep track of the workload. In the event that you do have issues with the controller, our engineers are able to access the cell remotely to then diagnose problems that are more complex. So if you do think back to our first episode, we talked about the basic differences between our software options, those being level 1, 2, and 3. The key thing to remember is that level 1 is the simplest form and will transfer your pallets from station to station. Level 2 gives you greater insights to production with reports we generate for you, and then level 3 grants you greater control over the cell with using the tooling information. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Alright, so this screen should look fairly familiar. It's the main screen on your cell controller. We've connected to the controller on our shop floor here, and we're going to use it to demonstrate how to add new jobs to the cell as well as various other functions. So the first thing we want to do is add a new program to the cell. So we have programs set up on our thumb drive, so we can go ahead and find that. Yep, here I got it. Okay, and here we have our thumb drive. I want to go, okay. And this is where we can keep some programs which we then drag and drop into the cell. We've already got some added, so we can close that. As you might imagine, this program list can get quite extensive, so we can do a quick search and find the programs we're looking for. And this is actually what we have. So first thing we want to do is right click on it, and then we'll hit change property. Alright, so from here you can enter a name as well as a programmer for each part. We recommend that you add a specific name for each, as it's going to help you find the part programs. So for example, you could use a customer or a job type as the name, and then for programmer you could use the name of a person or a group. So for our name, we're going to do Team FMS, and we'll just leave programmer blank for now. And we'll do the same for our second part number there. So again, Team FMS. Okay. Now we can close. So we'll go up to our search bar here real quick, and I'll just show you how that'll work. So again, we have put in our part number, but again, if you entered a name, you can search and refine that way. Okay. So we can close out our NC program data now. And now we need to move to work data. So we'll have to register the work, and to do that we'll click input and then add a line. So now we're inputting new information, and if you remember back to webinar 2 when we stressed how important naming conventions are, you're going to see that come into play here as we're using the same part name throughout this process to ensure that we're consistent. Doing this is going to keep your cell organized and make work much easier. So we're naming the part number exactly as we had it as that part program that we had in NC program. So it'd be 112345 6-rev-1. Okay. Then we can tab over, and we need to assign a work number. So this is used to identify the program throughout the cell. This can be 1 through 9999 all the way down, but we do recommend that you keep in order just to make things organized. So in our case, we're just going to start with number 56. So work number 56. And then same as before, we'll assign a category name, and this just helps you keep things organized within work data as well. So we'll do Team FMS. And then we'll save. Okay, and then once your work data is entered, you're going to double click to enter our work detail data. And we can really quick show you how to filter down by your category name, and we'll do Team FMS. And there we go, we have our part number. All right, so we'll double click here. And if you notice before, we hadn't talked about our operations or process. This is where we'll specify that data. So you'll hit input. We'll look at operation 1, process 1. What we need to assign is our group name. So looking at that, we have 2 options, or the one option is the MC. This is because we only have the one machine in our cell. All right, if you did have multiple machines, you could assign different group names. Okay, so we're going to assign MC, and then we're going to go over to our first work setting. So when we hit the drop down, we're going to assign ours as first work. This means that as the pallet is loaded into the cell, it's going to stop the machine and trigger an alarm for operator attention. This allows you to verify everything is correct before machining begins. And we're going to go ahead and set the same options for operation 2. So again, first work. Okay, and then we can save. And the last thing we want to look at while we're in this screen is our operation data. So since we're going to be running a variety of parts through the cell, it can be beneficial for operators to have a picture of the part appear at the load screen. So we can quickly add a picture by clicking operation data. Yeah. Here. Sure. Save it. Save it.
Let's save it.
And we're going to go operation data.
Yep.
Okay. So here again, we can input for the different operations. And the first thing we'll specify is load comments. So we'll look at operation 1 there. And then we're going to pan over to load comments. The next one over there. And then you can specify instructions that are then displayed at the load station. So load, and then we can look at unload, and then we can assign our image that'll appear at the load screen. All right, so what you can do here, you have to specify it exactly as it's saved to a folder we have in our cell controller. We've created a shortcut here so you can actually drag and drop from a thumb drive or whatever you need, but the file name needs to be exactly as we have in this folder. I do have a handout for everyone, and you're able to download that, and then that'll instruct you on how to go through and add the picture for the load station. Okay. So again, we just want to assign that exactly as we had in that folder. So it'd be 23456 -rev -1 and then we need to add the file type as well, otherwise it won't work. Okay, and then same idea for our operation 2. Okay, you can assign whatever you like. This is just an example. And then same idea for your file name. And again, don't forget the file type, otherwise it won't work. All right, now we can save and go back out. All right, we'll close that folder we had there. Okay, and we can back out of our work detail data and then close our work data as well. Okay, so now we've assigned that in the cell and we need to add it to be machined. So we're going to enter that new part as a 1 work pallet that will go to the machine for operation 1. To add this new job, we're going to click on the pallet in the load station, right click, and go to next pallet data. So whenever you're entering new information to the cell, you want to be sure to click the input button at the top left. we'll start in our General tab, and then look at our pallet type. We see that it is one work, so that's fine. And then directly underneath of that, we see the load station used. All right, so the load station used, you want to specify, you can leave blank, or you can specify a load station depending on your situation. We've only got the one load station, but that would be useful for those who have multiple and want to specify where the work should be routed. All right, now once we've done that, we just want to check the box underneath where it says after pallet is loaded, next pallet data is not cleared. All right, now we need to specify the work, so we'll click on that tab. And we need to enter our part number. So this is why it's so important to have the cell organized, as it's going to make this process much, much easier for you. So here you're able to enter the work number or part number, whichever is easier, but we do recommend that you do the part number, as that's what we assign the meaning to. So again, our part number was 1123456-rev-1. All right, so then you see that does populate our work number for us. And last thing we need to do is specify our operation. So we're going to do operation 1 and then click attach. Okay, we'll go back to General, hit create and save. We want to copy and replace those files. And we're going to double check by hitting create again, save again, copy and replace. And then we want to do one last thing, which is our fixture offsets. So we'll go to our work tab and click fixture offset. So here we had some information left over. We're just going to go ahead and clear that out and then show you how that'll be working. Okay, so you would add a line and enter in your work position. So in our case, it's going to be work position 1, since this is a one work pallet. Okay, for MC name, you're able to specify the offsets for a machine in particular, or as a common machine, which would be the same across the cell. So we're going to do common machine and assign our index position. Index position will be 1, which is a G54.
Yes.
And then we're going to assign our offsets here, which are going to be, say we'll do a 10 for X, a 10 for Y, and then Z will be 5.
Okay, Tim, we can add a different work offset on this pallet by creating a new one. So the only thing we have to do is add a new line, and it's going to be work position number 1. And we're going to make it common to that machine. And this time, let's do index position number 2. And we're going to put some, which is G55. And let's put some numbers in here. So we're just going to do a 15.
Okay, so we'll do X of 15, Y of 10, and then a Z of 10. Okay, so we've got both of our index positions loaded now. We can save, and we'll close. Back out again. All right, and we always want to double check our work, and the way we do that, you'll double click on the load station. So here we've got our part number. You notice it is operation 1. It is mounted. And then last thing we want to check, we can look at our load comments as we entered them before. So again, we just had test load as an example. And then we'll look at the picture we had assigned. And it seems that I might have added that incorrectly. And again, that's why I stress that it's important to have it exactly as we have in that folder. So I must have fat-fingered that, but that's okay. We can go back and change that. So we'll close that. And now we can send this pallet to the cell. All right, so while we're adding this to the cell, we'll just point out a few things for you. So in webinar 2, we had talked about the status bar here on the right, and then how that'll change as we're going throughout the cell. So you see the colors here, they are indicating where the work is going to be routed. And now the load station and RGV have changed to yellow for our unit status, indicating they are machining. So we do have our arrows indicating unloading request as well as loading. And then that'll move across our screen here. And we're actually going to pull down a second pallet for us as well. And then we're going to load operation 2 on that. All right, so I know we are going through a lot of different information here. We ask that you do save some questions for the end. We will address them at that point, okay? But in the meantime, just wanted to get a better idea of your thoughts on everything. And we have a question for you, which will launch here in a second. And that's basically, do you understand the differences between work position and fixture position? All right, so looking at our poll, I'm going to share the results for you. Most of you do know the difference, which is great. There were some that indicated no, which is fine. So if you'd like, later on at the end, we do have some time to demonstrate different functions and go into greater depth with that. Okay. So back to our main screen here. All right. So you see, we do have pallet number 1 is in the load station. We brought our second down so we can do operation 2. Okay. So what we want to do now is, again, add that second operation. So we right-click on the pallet there and go to our next pallet data. We're going to hit Input. We'll go to General. Make sure that it is a 1 work pallet. We've got that set. You can specify your load station if need be, and we've got our box checked there. So we're all set. We're going to go back to Work and input our part number. So again, 11234566-rev-1. It'll pull up our work number, so we're okay there. And we just want to specify the operation. So again, we're going to do operation 2. Hit Attach. And we'll go back to General, hit Create, and Save. Copy and replace. We're going to do that one more time. And copy and replace again. And last thing again was just to set our fixture data. So we're going to go back to Work and put in our offsets. All right, so again, we had some remainder information there. We're going to clear that and enter New. All right, so you'd add a line, and it'll be work position 1 again, since it was a 1 work pallet. And we're going to go to MC name, and it'll be common across the cell. Index position is going to be 3. All right, and then our offsets, we're going to do 1, 10, and then a Z of 6.
And like we did last time, we added another work offset. So let's do that on our second operation pallet. So we add, position is going to be 1 again. It's going to be common to a machine. Index position is 4, which we created G56 and G57 on this second operation pallet. And let's put some work offsets in there, Tim.
So we'll do 5 for an X, and we'll go 10 at Y, and then 8 at Z. All right, so we've got that all set. We can save and close. Close out of this. All right, now again, we just want to double check, so we'll double click on our load station. And we do see we have operation 2 loaded. All right, if we look at our comments, notice it is different. All right, and let's double check our picture again. So again, this is the folder that everything does need to be in. We have the instructions for this in our handout for you. We just may have done that incorrectly. So I think we've got that correct. And if we hit on document now, we'll see if we did have it in there. If not, okay. So again, we just entered that incorrectly, but you do have the information there. So we're all set, and we can now load pallet number 2 into the cell. But while we're waiting, we can double check and see what the issue was with this. So again, we're going to go back to our operation data, and looking at our folder, that's the wrong one. Let's see what we had it as and why it was incorrect. Okay, so if you look, again, it has to be exactly right. So it needed to be rev-2-1. We added an extra 1. So again, just make sure you have everything correct, and then it will pull up. Okay. The last thing I did want to ask you guys today is another poll, and we're going to ask you what you'd like to learn more about. Again, the whole point of this is to get an idea of what you are most interested in, so we're going to launch that here for you now. We can talk more about setting up jobs. You can look at our reporting functions. We can talk about alarms, the naming conventions, or other. All right, now if you hit other, please just let us know what you're actually looking to learn more about, and we can talk about that. So it is multiple choice. You can hit more than one. All right, so we'll look at our poll results here in a second and see what we are looking at. So that'll close, and we're going to share. So for the most part, everybody wanted to learn more about reporting functions, with 80% of people looking to learn more about that. So we can spend some time, go through that, and answer some of your questions. All right, but now what we're going to do is set up a different job in the cell, all right, which is actually our changeable fixture. So that's just a more efficient way of adding these jobs to the cell. You use a changeable fixture palette. This allows you to create and assign fixtures as needed. So we already have those programs in the cell, but we need to create fixtures to support them. So to do this, we're going to go to fixture data, and then we're going to add a line to create that new fixture. So we need to assign a new fixture number. In our case, what we're going to do is going to use fixture number 203. Again, we just suggest that you go sequentially so you don't get things confused. All right, now we need to name the fixture, and it's going to be very similar to what we named our PAR program. So it's going to be 112345 OP10 for operation 1. All right. Group name is going to mirror that, except for one thing. So 112345 OP10A. All right. Now the A stands for duplicate, or it will indicate duplicates. So this is the first fixture we have in the cell. If you need a duplicate fixture, you just put it B, C, D, so on, as necessary. Okay. So we can save that. And really quick, we're just going to show you how to efficiently copy that so you can create another fixture in the same fashion. All right, so we're going to click on fixture number 203, hit copy. All right, and we'll just pull this up. So instead of 203, we'll do 204, and we'll change our name from 10 to 20, and then same process for our group name. All right, and then we can save. All right, so what we want to do now is double click on the fixture we just created. So we'll look at 203, double click on that, and we're going to look at our fixture offsets as well as our allowables. We're going to start with our fixture offset. So to do that, you want to hit our input button and add a line, and then we're going to assign a work position. Now this would be the work position on this fixture. All right, so we're going to do work position number 1. MC name is very similar as what we've done before, so common machine or MC1, and then our index position. So we're going to do index of 1, which is a G54, and then we're going to put in our offsets. So we're going to leave X as 0, Y is going to be 15, and then Z will be 5.
Okay, Tim, now on this fixture, we can have another position where we can mount the same part. So in this case, what we're going to do is add another line, and we're going to call this work position 2 on that fixture. We're going to make it common to the machine. Index will be the same, but only difference is we're going to change that X to a 0, Y to a 5, and Z at 5.
All right, so we've got those 2 work positions added. We can now save and close. And then we want to look at our allowable settings. So we'll click that. Okay, as always, input, and add a line. And we're going to look at work mounting position number 1 at first. Face will be 0. Our work number start is going to be 56. And work number end was also going to be 56. Now, Keith, what does that mean? Work number start, work number end.
So what we could do here is we could have a range of parts starting from 56 all the way up to 100. That means that there's the X amount of parts that can be mounted to this work position. So we can have a number of parts there.
Okay. All right, and then last thing we need to do is assign our operation. That's going to be 1. And so since we had 2 work mounting positions, of course, we need to add that second as well. So work mounting position is going to be number 2. Same face, face 0. And we're going to use the same work number start and end. And again, this will be operation 1. Okay, so we have that entered. We'll save and exit. And now we're set with that fixture. The only thing we have left to do is repeat that information for our OP20 fixture, which was number 204. So again, we'll go to a fixture offset, hit input, and add a line. So we're going to look at work position on this fixture of number 1. Okay, MC name, we're going to specify as common machine. And our index position, again, is going to be 1. And we'll put in offsets, say, of 10 for X, 10 for Y, and then 5 for Z. All right.
So let's add the second work position.
Do the same as we had before. So we have 2 work positions. Specify our MC name. Index position is going to be 2 in this case. I'm sorry, 1. And then we'll specify our offsets. So X of -10 in this case, 10, and 5. All right, now we can save. Oh. Okay, so we changed that to index position number 2. My apologies. Okay, we'll save and go back out. And then we need to set allowables. That'll be the last step. And again, as always, add a line and input. Work mounting position will be 1. Face is going to be 90 in this case.
Make it 0 on this fixture. Make it 0.
0?
Yes.
Okay. The work number start is 56. End is 56. And operation 2. Add a line. Again, work position number 2. Face is 0. Work number start and end of 56. And operation 2. All right, so now we can save, back out, close here, and all the way back out. All right, so now we need to add them to the palette we have in the cell. So again, right-click and go to Next Palette Data, hit Input, and go to General. We need to change our palette type as a changeable fixture, and loading station used you can specify as needed. Okay. We're going to go to fixture now and then click on fixture mounting. Input, yep, and fixture mounting. Okay, so we need to clear those fixtures off as those are not what we're using. And again, add a line. So fixture position in this case is going to be fixture position
number 1.
Number 1. Face is going to be 0.
Right.
Fixture, if you remember, we used 203. So there we have our OP10, and we have our group name as well. Okay. All right, now we need to mount the work to that fixture. So we'll click there, add a line. This will be work position number 1, and we can click on our allowables since we had set that, and then we'll just drag that information into the line. Okay.
Okay, Tim. Let's add our second position too.
Okay.
So we add a line. Second position, and we could do the allowables again, which is operation number 1. Okay.
All right. So we'll close out and save, or back out of there. Add another line for our second fixture. So we're going to do that on fixture position
number 2.
Number 2, which then would be face
90.
90. And we'll put in our fixture number, which was 204.
Operation 2.
All right, and again, click on work mounting, add a line. All right, we'll specify that by going to our allowables. So you notice here we've got operation 2. All right, drag that in, close that, and then add a line for our second work position. So we got it in there. Okay, and close. Close out of here.
Now, what we just did, Tim, is on this changeable fixture base, we have 2 positions we mounted. Position 1 will always be at a 0. Position 2 is at 90, and if we had the other 2 operandi, position number 180 and 270, we have 3 and 4. If we had the 8-sided tombstone, we would call that 5, 6, 5, 7, 8. So.
Okay. So now we can close out of here. We're all set, I believe. All right, and close. Actually, we didn't save, so we want to go back. We'll hit create and save. Copy and replace. Enter it again just to double check. Okay. Now we can go back out and double click on our load station to check our work. So what are we looking at here, Keith?
Okay, what we have is we have 2 fixtures mounted, position 1 and 2 on that base. We got operation 10 and 20 fixture mounted. And here we have our parts mounted. On our operation 10, we got operation 10 fixture, we have part number will be designated, operation 1. On our second position, which is our operation 20 fixture, we have the same part number, but it's operation 2. So here we could designate what we want to run. So at this time, first time we run it, what we want to do is not unmount our first operation, and we won't mount the second operation at all. Okay, and we could post this, and now we can look at our comments. And since Tim did fix,
the image still doesn't work, but we have our low comments are there.
Okay. So.
All right. So then that is correct, and we are able to add that to the cell. Okay. All right. So switching gears here now, we want to talk about something different. We're also going to show you our M920 cycle time update. All right. So that's used to keep your report straight. Because we are going to talk about our reporting functions. So we actually added that to our part here. So if you double click on that in our NC program, this is what we're looking at here. So what does this do here, Keith?
Okay, in order to keep our parts counts correct, what we have to do is we got to insert a couple lines of information. First thing we do is at the beginning of the program, we insert this information here. And then we insert our physical cutting program. And then toward the end, what we do is input this information at the very end. And this information will go in after the program, but before the M30.
Right.
So this what happens is when we get it, it will keep up, like I say, keep our parts count correct.
Okay, so that's important because we had just added a changeable fixture palette. Now that had 2 parts mounted in the 1 fixture. So if you didn't have this, it would just count both of those as 1 part being run. If you add this, then that will count both, or all the parts that are on that fixture, correct?
True.
Okay, so that may have been confusing to some of you. We do have that in a handout which you're able to look at and download. If you do have questions, you can direct those to us, okay? So now we do want to talk about our reports. So if you recall, most of these reports are available in our level 2 FMS software. So these will include our machining, tool, operation, production, and system alarm report. So you're able to customize these so they record your shifts when they start and end. And then managers are able to view and print these reports to identify areas of improvement. So we're going to show you how those work, but first, you may not know how to customize your shift times. So naturally, that should be done before you start looking at your reports. Good thing is it's fairly simple to do, and we're going to show you how to do that. So if you do go to Mode Parameter and click Parameter from the drop-down, you're going to get a variety of different options to set. So if you look at Report, here we have our shift times. So you can look at all day, shift 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Another option you want to make sure is enabled is Tool Check. So that's under the Other tab, and we've got some options here. What does this do here for us, Keith?
Okay. When we check all the time, every time we send a pallet in the machine, it would check to make sure that tool is available. Unmanned mode is only going to check in the unmanned mode. And if we turn it off, it will never check that tool information that's in the magazine. Okay?
All right. So then if you did make any changes, of course, you want to hit Apply at the top, and then you would hit OK, and then we're all set to go. So the first thing we're going to look at is our machining report. So we're going to do that. You can either look at that on the cell level for the entire cell, or you can do it per machine. We'll just look at the machine level. So you would right click and you can go to machining report, not operation. We'll get to operation in a sec. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So we're actually going to start with our operation report here. We had asked in our previous webinar if you knew how to check your spindle utilization. This is actually how you'll do that. So you're able to specify your date ranges. All right. So for example, 11. We'll go the first of the month to today. Okay, and then group, you just specify your shift time. If you want to do all day, you can do that as well. And then that'll be under status rate. So we'll hit display. And as I believe we had told you before, we don't do much machining on our cell here, so the data will look much different than it does for you. But when we're looking at this chart here, Keith, how do we figure out what the utilization should be?
Okay, this is a unit status. So if we look at the color chart here, and we see the same colors here. So if we have machine in there, that means our spindle is constantly turning, which we want to see. And then we could look at our alarms. We could look at if the operator is being called, like we did, first work. So we have different things. We even have it here too. So we can actually look at this and see what kind of utilization we had on that particular unit. We could do, if we had 2 machines on the system, we could look at each individual one using this.
Okay. All right, so we can close out of here. And we can go through and show you our machining report. As I said, we don't have much information there since we're not running our machine, but we can show you that. And if you have questions, we can explain that. So we're going to exit out of here, and we'll go to report. And we'll go to machining report. So this is the machining report across the entire cell. So again, you can specify the date ranges. The group is just your shift times. And then we have all this other information here as well. Okay. So again, we don't have a whole lot of information here. This is some information we had run earlier today. All right. But obviously, if you're running your cell on your own, it'll be much different. Okay. So we can close out of here. Keith, why don't we show them some examples of alarms?
Okay. We can get our alarms, figure out how to do it by clicking on our alarm status. And we got a list of alarms on the RGB. We could click that. And if we click on a certain alarm, we get a brief explanation on how to get out of some of these things. So we do have a list of alarms that you guys can look at and go through it. So here we have another one. Return. So
it'll give you the cause and then give you a brief explanation of how to resolve the problem with our common alarms that we have here.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we can close out of that. The final thing I wanted to show you before we end today was our security settings. All right. So if we go to setting, we can change that. All you would do, as always, we would input and add a line. We're going to save this as, okay, and then you would just set the level of access that you give that person. So for example, we're going to say ANSI programmer. All right, you would save, data is registered, and then the last thing you'd want to check is your allow setting. So this is where you would set what those users are able to do. So again, very simple, just show you if they're able to view that particular function, and then if they're also able to modify. And you're able to do this for each of the levels. Okay? Anything you want to add on that? Okay. All right, so we can close out of that and close. All right. Oops. Okay, so in summary, we had covered a few different things here so that are found in our cell controller. Showed you how to set up new jobs. We did that on one work pallets as well as a changeable fixture. We discussed the different types of reports, showed you briefly the things that are available, and then we talked about the alarms, and then showed you how to secure the cell controller. So I know that was a lot of information to go through at once, and we did want to save some time for questions. So if you do have a question at this time or a particular function you'd like to go through, we ask that you go ahead and ask that of us now, and then we can show that to you live on our cell controller. So again, if anybody does have a question, please let us know. All right, so while we're waiting for some questions, we'll just show you how to fix that picture that we had added in earlier. That was bothering us a little bit. So what you would need to do is go back to work data. We're going to double click and then go back to operation data. And we had the wrong file name in there as I showed you. So if you pull up our folder here, I had added an extra 1 instead. So we can change that. Again, go to input. I'm going to type the whole thing. So, oops, 456 -rev -1 dot JPEG. Okay, and then be the same process for operation 2. Okay, and then you'd save, and we'd be all set.
So let's see if that worked, Tim.
So we still have that pallet at the load station. We can pull that up and take a quick look at that. All right, so you see what Keith had done there. We did click on our document button, and then that'll pull up our picture. We just taken a picture of our cell here. So that was operation 1. Now if we look at operation 2 and hit document, oh, we had done 2. My apologies. So now we'll click 1. So it seems that we had done the wrong image there. So again, just goes to show that you do need to input it exactly as we have it in the cell. All right, so I believe that's all the time we have for you today. And again, thank you all. Oh, 1 second, we did get a question. So the question we just got is, how do you upload a program from the computer to the machine after you make a change in the program?
Very simple. Let's demonstrate that.
All right.
Okay, so what I could do is I have a pallet in the machine that's currently, is stop mode. So if I do is right mouse click on that pallet, and the only thing I had to do is re-download the program. And I said start transmission. But in order for this to work, we have to make a change to the program. And what happens is when we make a change to the program, it has a time and date that we actually physically go over there and see when we made a modification to that. And then, like I said, when we do a right mouse click on that palette and do re-download, it looks at the two dates and then it will download the program. So it's transmitting, it's done, it's finished. So that's how you re-download it.
Okay, so that's how we do that. Please let us know if that answers your question. We do have a second question here now, Keith. How do you monitor how many parts have run and how many remain on a given job?
Well, we haven't really talked about that, but it's going to be in what we call a parts count, loading quantity data. We can't input a job, how many parts do we want to run, and we can create that. It'll give us a little schedule, and it'll bring exactly how many parts that we input. So here, I'm going to do a quick one here. So if we have, say, a name, and we're going to call it, let's call it test. That's the name of a routing number that we could give it. And our work number, since we know we got 56 in here.
56, hang on. All right, we'll do 56.
Tab. And it gives us that part number, okay? And then we could tell it how many we want to run. So if we want to run 10 of them, it will give us that. And main reason why I really don't want to go through this because our cell controller have what we call dynamic scheduling. So this might be a little cumbersome. So if we say make load, work load, so you see that it does bring up our part numbers here. How many parts are we going to run? Because I specified 10.
All right, so from this, you'd be able to see how many have run and how many we have left to go, correct?
Right. And what it'll do is it keep bringing the pallets back until it reaches 10, and then it'll put that pallet away.
Okay.
But like I say, another rubber knot for that.
All right. And we did have another question, Keith. It related to our first one. We were talking about uploading a program from the computer to the machine. The question was, does the machine have to be in a certain mode to re-download?
No, it does not. It could be in memory mode or anything. Once you re-download it, it will take the program that's on the screen and change it to a different program. And that's how it does. So normally we do it on the edit. Memory, it really doesn't matter.
Okay, so you can do it in any mode. It should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Any remaining questions? So, Keith, if you remember, we had gone through our allowables and we said work number start and work number end, right? So the question came through, it says, in allowables, it asks for the work number start and finish. Can you only allow parts with consecutive work numbers to be mounted, or can you do a range?
We could do a range, or we could actually, if we, one time we say number 1 through 10 or just 1. If we need to add a different part in that position, what we would do is we just call it, if we up to program 100 or work number 100, we just specify work number 100. So we could do range or we could do individual. One thing bad about doing individuals is that that list could get pretty big. So you just got to kind of, figure that one out.
So you are able to do a range, but then you can also insert individual part numbers
Right.
as needed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chris is saying that regarding okay, and then regarding the question we had earlier about uploading the program, the active program cannot be uploaded if the program is in cycle.
Yes. And what he means by that is if we are running that particular part, we can't upload it to the cell controller. So, quite naturally, if you're going to do that, you're going to be in the edit mode, you're going to change your work offset, or you're going to change a feature in your program at your cell controller, and then you're going to download it to a palette that's not currently running, a program that's not running.
Right.
So the main thing too is we didn't ask about how we get the program from the machine into the cell controller.
So we'll be looking at that later on, where you can actually upload the program from the machine's memory and then transfer that to the cell controller. And again, we'll be showing you how to do that in a later episode. All right, so if there are no further questions, that is all we do have for you today. I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us here today and asking the questions. It benefits everyone learning from this. So it does wrap our presentation. If you do think of anything moving forward, we will have our people standing by ready to answer that question. So we do have our information here. So again, you can call 800-257-2985 or just send us an email at service@Toyota. So thank you again for joining us. We will be back on December 8th again at noon, and we'll be looking at more functions, including the RGV, and then we can also look at downloading our information, or uploading rather, from the machine to the cell. All right. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you for episode 4.